Okay, so let us start with our lesson. Pasensya na sa mga tilawak pamunok. Yun lang, medyo may ingay lang po. Pero, let's start. So, topic or objective: describe how layers of rocks are formed. Or describe how layers of rocks, stratified rocks, are formed. Okay? Rocks and layers. We study Earth's history by studying the record of past events that is preserved in the rocks. The layers of the rocks are the pages in our history books or book. So, para daw mapag-aralan yung Earth history daw, okay, pwede daw natin gamitin yung rocks. Okay. Yung mga nakapreserve sa rocks na past events. Yan. Para malaman natin yung Earth's history. Ano po? Through rocks. So, yan. So, mga past events po, no? Na nakapreserve sa rocks. Kumbaga yung evolution Earth, ano? Or yung past events Earth. Yan. Yung mga nakapreserve na past dito sa rocks. Okay? Most of the rocks exposed at the surface of Earth are sedimentary, formed from particles of older rocks that have been broken apart by water or wind. The gravel, sand, and mud settle to the bottom in rivers, lakes, and ocean. So, sa Earth daw, ang pinakamarami daw na bato ay sedimentary rocks. Okay? Sedimentary rocks which are formed from particles of older rocks. Yun. So, yun nga po daw. Sa Earth, ang pinakamarami ay yung mga sedimentary rocks. Okay? Yung mga yan. Na nagmula pa daw sa mga lumang bato. Kaya nagsama-samang lumang bato. Eh, ba't nagsama-sama? Kasi daw, itong mga sedimentary rocks na to, sorry for that. Itong mga sedimentary rocks na to, okay, are broken apart by wind. Okay? By wind and water. Okay? By wind and water. Or by water. Okay, this water. And by wind. So, napag hiwa-hiwalay itong mga sedimentary rocks or nabubuto mga sedimentary rocks by wind and by water. Okay? And then, through wind and water, nabubuo naman po yung gravel and sand. Then, minsan, yung mud or putik. Okay? Which we can find in rivers, lakes, and ocean. These sedimentary particles may vary living and dead animals and plants on the lake or sea bottom. With the passage of time and the accumulation of more particles, and often with chemical changes, the sediments at the bottom of the file become rock. Okay. So, yung like this one, yung dead animals or living or dead animals, mostly dead animals, and pieces of plants, okay, can be formed or turned into yung sedimentary rocks. Okay, pwede sila mabuo dyan na ganyan, ano? Yung mga pieces ng dead animals and plants can be turned into sedimentary rocks. Okay. Gravel becomes a rock called conglomerate. Sand becomes sandstone. Mud becomes mudstone or shale. And the animal skeletons and plant pieces can become fossils. So, unang example natin, we have yung gravel sand. Okay? This can become these stones or yung conglomerate stones. Okay? And then aside from gravel turning into conglomerate, yung sand pwede po maging sand na to, pwede maging sandstone, okay, or sandstones, okay, like this stones here. And yung mud naman po o yung putik, pwede po siya maging shale or mudstone, like this one, shale or mudstone. And last but not the least, yung skeletons po ng animals like itong bonefish, chicken bone, and some plant pieces can turn into in due time can turn into fossil rocks like these ones. Okay, so we have here a picture, okay, an idealized view of a modern landscape and some of the plants and animals that could be preserved as fossils. So here we have an elk or usa, usually found in the United States. Yung kanyang skull or bungo, pwede maging elk skull yan, fossil. Then itong puno na to, pwede mag-produce ng pollen grain. And itong let us see, ito ay C, assuming may shark pa. Itong shark namatay, pwede maging fossil kanyang shark tooth. At yung mga seashells dito or clamshells, ayan, pwede rin maging fossil. As early as the mid-1600s, the Danish scientist Nicolas Steno studied the relative positions of sedimentary rocks. He found that solid particles settle from a fluid according to their relative weight or size. So itong si Danish na scientist na si Nicolas Steno, okay, in the 1600s, formulated yung theory which becomes a law regarding rocks. Depende daw yon sa weight or size ng rocks. Okay? So let us see. The largest or heaviest settle first, and the smallest or lightest settle last. Slight changes in particle size or composition result in the formation of layers, also called beds, in the rock. Layering or bedding is the most obvious feature of sedimentary rocks. So, itong ito, sample rock natin. Okay. Ito, may mga layers of rocks. Okay. Yan, may mga layering of rocks. Ito, medyo white. Becomes bigger. Then may layer of rocks pa dyan, yung puti. Ito, yung biggest. So, sabi, according to Steno, yung largest, okay, yung pinakamalaki, yung heaviest, ito, yan, nabuo siya latest, okay, siya yung pinakabago, siya yung youngest. Pero itong lightest, yan, smallest layers of rock, yan, sila yung pinakamatanda na, pinakaluma. Okay? So, yung nasa ilalim, siya yung pinakaluma. Ayan, pinakaluma. Tapos, yung nasa ibabaw, o yung heaviest, siya yung pinaka-latest or bago. Okay? Sedimentary rocks are formed particle by particle and bed by bed, and the layers are piled one on top of the other. Thus, in any sequence of layered rocks, a given bed must be older than any bed on top of it. So, ito yung sample natin ng sedimentary rocks. So, kita nyo, we have different layers dito sa example na to, bilangan natin layer. So, we have 1, we have 2, we have 3, yan, and then we have 4. We have balat, kumbaga. we have 5, we have 6, and we have 7 layers. Itong mga layers ng rocks na to, ang tawag dito ay bed, bed of rocks. Okay, patong-patong. Yan. Itong mga sedimentary rocks na to, may mga kanya-kanyang layer po yan. Yan. Ito rin, may layer dito, may bed din dito. So, yung layer bed, ano lang yan, synonymous to each other. Tapos, meron siyang fault dito, yan. Yung fault parang sa Tagalog, biyak. Okay. So, nagkakaroon ng biyak yung mga bato dahil sa paglipas ng panahon. Through storms, typhoons, earthquakes. Yan. Kaya nagkakaroon ng faults. Aside from water and wind. Yan. So, yan yung mga beds of rocks. Okay. Or layers of rocks. Okay. Next tayo. This law of superposition is fundamental to the interpretation of Earth history because at any one location, it indicates the relative ages of rock layers and the fossils in them. So we have, according to Steno, Mr. Steno, we have the law of superposition. Okay. Ito yung sinasabi ko nina. The law of superposition states that yung youngest, yung pinakabatang layer, yung nasa ibabaw. Okay? Siya yung pinakamabigat na layer ng bato. Yan, yung nasa ibabaw. Pero, yung oldest ay yung nasa ilalim. Yan. Siya na may parang magaan, lightest layer ng bato. So, yan po yung law of superposition po natin. Okay? So, we have a picture here of originations of major life forms. So we have at the bottom yung pre-Archean or no record of life kasi nga hindi pa uso yung writings noon. We have Archean or yung microscopic single celled or filament shaped organisms. Okay, kumbaga vertical lang sila. Protozoic, single and complex single-celled organisms, usually algae or worm-like organisms. And last, we have the phanerozoic, animals with shells or bones, land animals, aside from animals, also plants. Okay. Next, we have layered rocks formed when particles settle from water or air. Steno's law of original horizontality states that most sediments, when originally formed, were laid down horizontally. So, aside from law of superposition, we have the law of original horizontally or horizontality, okay, as stated by Steno. Okay. Law of original horizontality, okay, states that yung bawat patong ng layer ng earth, ng rock pala, ay laging pa horizontal as depicted in this picture. Ayan. So, always horizontal. Hindi po vertical, hindi po diagonal. And always vertical in structure. So that is the law of original horizontality. Take note, original. Bakit po original? Kasi may mga rocks kasi ito, basahin po natin. However, many layered rocks are no longer horizontal. Take note no longer horizontal. Kaya nga law of original horizontality kasi hindi siya always na horizontal. Pero at first, horizontal siya. Okay? Because of the law of original horizontality, we know that sedimentary rocks that are not horizontal either were formed in special ways or more often were moved from their horizontal position by later events. such as titling during episodes of mountain building. So, nababago siya, no? Because of sa events ng times, like yung typhoons, like yung earthquakes, at pati events ng tao. And mountain building, dynamiting, drilling, and kaya nababago yung horizontality ng mga rocks na yan. Okay, as example, ito no, tong mga rocks na to, may mga vertical formation siya. Yan, may mga vertical formation siya. Nababago yan dahil sa ano no, kung hindi po sa typhoons or earthquakes or landslide minsan, dahil sa kagagawan din ng tao, no? Drilling and dynamiting, etc. Mountain building, and so kaya nagiging vertical or diagonal. Pero originally, horizontal ang layering ng mga rocks yan or mountains. Okay? Rock layers are also called strata, the plural form of the Latin word stratum, and stratigraphy is the science of strata. Stratigraphy deals with all the characteristics of layered rocks. It includes the study of how these rocks relate to time. So, yung study ng rock layers, we call it stratigraphy. Stratigraphy. Study of rock layers. Stratigraphy. And yung ano naman po, sorry for that. Yung rock layers is called the strata. Okay? Yung rock layers po, ang tawag sa kanya strata. Okay? Pero yung study of rock layers, we call it stratigraphy. Okay? We have different principles of stratigraphy. We have superposition, original horizontality, which we have studied a while ago. Lateral continuity, cross-cutting relationships, inclusions, etc. So there's a lot under stratigraphy. Next. Then we have a picture here, outcrop of the Ordovician Lexington limestone. So itong structure na to, limestone po ito. Yan. Na matatagpuan sa Lexington, Kentucky. Kung saan tong limestone na to is punong-puno ng fossil shells. Yan. May mga fossil shells dyan. Kaya pinupuntahan ng mga tao. Okay? So limestone, dun sa Lexington. These horizontally layered beds were deposited about 450 million years ago. The dark stains on the rock are formed by water seeping from springs. So ito daw mga dark stain na to. Ito mga itim-itim na layer na to. Itong limestone na to. And naging itim daw yan dahil sa water dripping na galing dun sa spring, dun sa Kentucky, sa Lexington, Kentucky. Yan formed by water seeping from springs. Okay. The vertical marks on the rocks are drill holes in which dynamite charges were exploded to remove the rock so that an interstate highway could be built. So, ito daw na vertical, yung mga vertical lining yan. Kasi ito mga horizontal to, yan, horizontal. Pero itong mga vertical lining na to, nagkaroon ng mga vertical lining po dahil sa drilling daw, saka sa dynamite explosion. Okay? Yun daw yung kaya nagkaroon ng vertical lining. So, sabi daw, ito yung cause na yung drilling, yan, tapos vertical, dynamite explosion doon sa mga rocks yan. Bakit daw ginagawa to? Kasi daw isang rason daw, yung paggawa daw ng interstate highway. Yan. Ito sa California to, no? So, kita nyo yung parang history niya. Dito meron pa ring sediment rocks or mountain. So, ibig sabihin dati, itong highway na to, sediment rocks din. Kaso lang, naging highway na because of the drilling and dynamite explosion. Okay? And then we have another picture here. Nearly vertical limestone beds that were disturbed from their original horizontal position by mountain climbing. So, nadi-disturb yung pagiging horizontal ng let's say itong rock na to, no? Because of mountain climbing, kaya nagkakaroon ng fault. Mountain climbing, mountain building. Tapos, the men are collecting, ito pa isang rason, itong mga tao na to, no, they are looking for fossil shells. Ayan. Kumbaga, kaya nagkakaroon ng mga faults. Okay? So, itong picture na to, taken from Arbuckle Mountains near Ardmore, Oklahoma. So, yun daw, na masisira daw yung original horizontal position ng isang rock because of kumbaga human activities, no? Like mountain climbing at saka collection ng fossil shells. Okay. So, that's it. Summarize natin yung ating lesson, po. So, ito yung objective natin, Describe how layers of rocks are formed. So, paano ba nabubuo yung rocks? So, una, we study Earth history by studying the record of past events preserved in the rocks. Then, sedimentary rocks are formed from particles of older rocks that have been broken apart by water or wind. Third, gravel becomes a rock called conglomerate. Sand becomes sandstone. Mud becomes mudstone or shale. And the animal skeletons and plant pieces can become fossils. Fourth, law of superposition states that the largest or heaviest settle first, and the smallest or lightest settle last. Fifth, law of original horizontality states that most sediments, when originally formed, were laid down horizontally. Sixth, rock layers are also called strata, and stratigraphy is the science of strata. And last but not the least, the vertical marks on the rocks are drill holes in which dynamite charges were exploded to remove the rock so that structures like highways could be built. So, yun po, no? So, in other words, napaform po yung rocks. Okay? Because of water and wind, firstly, and yung because of typhoons, because of earthquakes, and because of mostly human activities like fossil collection and let's say drilling, dynamic explosion, and mountain building. Okay, I hope you understand our lesson for today. Bye for now. Thank you.